So I heard the man, he was talking the other day. I think he was talking out his ass. I think he was talking a lot of bullshit, excuse my language. He was talking about, obviously the man spent time in Pennsylvania and New York as a younger individual, but his dad moved to Western Kentucky in a beautiful, elitist neighborhood in Western Kentucky. When the boy was young, he already had the oxygen deprivation. I think he got oxygen deprivation somewhere up in the Catskills. There was swimming up there in upstate New York. The man spent time in New York. He spent time in Pennsylvania. He spent most of his life in Kentucky. So let's not be, because he was trying to talk some bull crap. He says, hey, I could hear him talking to his friend. He goes, hey, you know me, I remember the old days in Bensonhurst. And I thought, Bensonhurst? This guy would never got near Bensonhurst. We went one time and we got so lost in Queens Astoria. It took us till 4:30 in the morning, a.m. We tried to leave Queens Astoria at 1 o'clock in the, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the a.m. It was like 4:45 before we got out. It was somehow we blundered on the 280. We got on 80 and we actually drove back. We took, instead of driving home as an hour and a half, we took a 7-hour round trip. We went in and out of Queens Astoria like 5 times. Crossed this bridge, crossed that bridge, come back, go ahead. It was crazy. But that was the only time. Down in Queens Astoria, we couldn't even find a way around. All right? So he's telling one of his buddies, I could overhear him talking, he says, yeah, when I was growing up in Bensonhurst, there was all kinds of made men everywhere. I was like, made men? This guy, he was never around a mafioso. He shouldn't even say mafia. The man says, everybody, half the people there were straight down, you know what I'm saying? I said, oh, my goodness gracious. The man, you don't know anything. The man's like, I remember very well. We had Fat Tony. We had Tony Fat. And we had Fat Tony Fat. They ran the whole neighborhood. It was Fat Tony, Tony Fat, and Fat Tony Fat. And they ran the neighborhood. Gosh, you did not want to cross one of those boys. They kind of were all together. I don't know what religious name they were. Tony was short for Anthony. Anthony and Cleopatra. I don't know what Anthony's there were in the Bible. There was a lot of, repetitious in the names of the Peters and the Pauls, but they were apostles, so you could see that. But I don't know why. But the man was like, yeah, no, I know we was running numbers. They was bull whacking, they was hijacking, they was gambling. They tried not to get in their narcotics, and they wouldn't do the women. They started out running a string of women. They were doing the sports betting. They were doing the loan sharking. They were doing the gin whacking, the stick-ups, the heists. It was Fat Tony. There was Tony Fat, and there was Fat Tony Fat. And one time they got replaced. One of a time Chicken Bone came in there. And then breaded chicken liver came in there. Chicken bone and then breaded chicken liver. And that was the time that the Fat Tonys all had it. Were on the lam. They had to escape it. I remember Fat Tony got killed. Tony Fat went to prison. And Fat Tony Fat, he kind of retired. He went down to the Bahamas and he retired. But I almost called the man. It's like, buddy, you know that's bullshit. What were you 4 when you lived in Bensonhurst? Your family never lived in Bensonhurst. Don't give me that crap. I don't know where you were, in the suburbs of the suburbs of the suburbs. You're laying claim just because you got a newspaper. You got the New York Daily News, so you think you lived in New York. I'm sorry. You were an outskirts kind of a guy. You spent more time in PA than you ever did in New York, and by the time you were 9 or 10, you were living in Western Kentucky. So don't give me that Fat Tony Fat, and Fat Tony Fat bullcrap. And the man's like, no, man. I remember that one time Fat Tony came up and said, Tony Fat, you got my money? And Fat Tony Fat looked at him and said, hey, Tony, Fat Tony, don't start no troubles. And Tony Fat said, yeah, I got your money. What's the matter with you? And Fat Tony Fat, he said, hey, Tony Fat, calm down. Fat Tony, you don't come in here like that. That's a bunch of crap. I remember well. It was a time that Fat Tony Fat almost gutted Fat Tony for screwing around with Tony Fat. Don't try to tell me I don't remember.